Welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. My name's Thomas. This is Zarbo Audio Projects. So what is it that we're looking at today? Well, this is a 15 watt per channel amplifier with a volume potentiometer built in and Bluetooth 4.2 on a daughter board connected to the top. Now that's the sole input. There is no other way to get signal input. It's Bluetooth only. It looks pretty small, doesn't it? It is. Let me give you the dimensions. It's about 1 3/4 inches wide, about 1 5/8 inches deep. That's not including the potentiometer shaft. And it's only about 5/8 of an inch thick. And all the ones that I've seen for sale at all the websites I've been to all seem to have a knob included with it. Before I could test this out, I had to solder leads to the board. It doesn't come with Phoenix screw type connectors. There is no switch on the volume knob, so you'll have to wire in a switch as well. I also soldered wires to the two pads labeled SW. Some of the reviews suggested that this was there so you could wire in a switch to reset Bluetooth for another device, for example, if you had to, without turning the whole amp off. But it didn't do anything on my unit at all. By the way, there was no diagram whatsoever on the Banggood website from the seller that I purchased it from. A few other sellers did have a basic diagram to work from, though. This is where reviews can really help figure out what goes where. And I should add that this review is really only applicable for this particular unit. These low-cost boards often change over time, so you should keep that in mind. Before I power this up for a brief demonstration, let's take a peek at the data sheet for the Texas Instruments TPA3110 amplifier chip at the heart of this amplifier. You can usually find a data sheet for well-known amplifier chips by just doing a Google search. In this case, it was easy to find. Texas Instruments makes quite a few amplifier chips, and this one came up really quick. But it's a good idea to do that, because if you're looking at buying an amplifier board and it says it can deliver 50 watts per channel, and then you look at the information data sheet on that chip, and it only says 20 watts per channel, then you know it's not going to be realistic. They're engaging in a little bit of advertising hype. Well, here we can see that the supply voltage has a pretty good range from 8 to 26 volts direct current. And here it explains that the chip has a thermal pad on the underside where it presses against the circuit board. Now, some pics from online sellers show a long blob of solder there to dissipate some heat on the back of the circuit board where the chip goes. The one from Banggood that I got just had a bunch of little holes there with no solder. Here we can see that the chip actually has some protection built in. If you accidentally short the speaker outputs, it shouldn't damage the amp, and it should be able to recover after the short is removed. But of course, it's always best to just shut down the power before you wire things up. Here we can see that it puts out about 10 watts per channel at 13 volts, but that's at 10% distortion, which is going to sound really bad. It's funny, but all these little tiny amps, they almost always give their wattage ratings at pretty high distortion figures like this. 10% distortion is about average from what I've seen. And here we see that the chip can be used for 4 ohm speakers safely, and it indicates an efficiency of about 90%. Here we see that this chip claims to deliver 30 watts for a 4 ohm mono load at 10% distortion with 16 volts. I haven't really seen a wattage rating expressed like that before, but I would expect probably 10 to 12 clean usable watts at 4 ohms with a 12 volt 2 amp power supply voltage. Now 12 watts might not sound like a lot, but as you'll see in the demo, it's actually plenty for most situations that this amplifier will likely be used for. Well, let's put some music through this amp and let's see what it can do. So this is the amplifier right here. I have power going out or coming in from my 12 volt or adjustable 12 volt up to 12 volt power supply. I have the left and right speaker leads going out to alligator clips, which go into this is my in-out test box. These leads here, oops, I'll push that in. These leads go to these two speakers, and now for the moment of truth, let's turn it on. Not too loud. Okay, let's see if we have some music to play here. Let's see, Blues Infusion. That's in the YouTube library. Let's play that. Okay. I had already paired this up through Bluetooth. So just a little bit so you can see how it works. Now I'm going to turn it up a bit. Doesn't take much to get loud. That knob is arranged. That knob's arranged properly, so it would be like, what would you say, 8 o'clock and 4 o'clock or so. So it doesn't take a big turn of the dial to get kind of loud. Now that's being powered by a 2 amp 12 volt supply. So supposedly this goes from 8 volts, will operate on 8 volts up to 24, 26. I'll put it up on the screen because I know I'm wrong. But anyway, I also did wire in these leads here. It's not going to focus right, but it says SW. Apparently that stands for switch. We think subwoofer when we see SW, but this is a 2-channel amp. SW in this case means switch, and the word on the reviews on some of these was that the switch would turn on Bluetooth or turn it off, or maybe you could turn it off temporarily, let it repair. But it doesn't seem to do anything. It's not doing anything. Let me short this out just to make sure the switch isn't broken. Nope, it isn't doing a thing. So in this one at least, it doesn't do anything. Now also, there's right above the green flashing light, there's something that says key. I'll put a better picture up. There's 2 lines there that could be soldered in. I don't know what that does. There's no documentation for that. And in fact, most of the other pictures of this particular amplifier that are online for Aliexpress and Banggood don't have those 2 particular solder points. And actually, if you look at them, this Bluetooth chip section looks a little different on this one than it does in the other ones. There's a little bit of differences here. You expect the little differences in layouts from one product to another, but these are essentially sort of the same thing, almost exactly the same thing that they're all selling. They look almost identical. This one that they got, actually I got 4 of them. I tend to blow things up, so I like to have spares. But it doesn't actually, it doesn't look like the picture of what they were supposed to send me. For some reason, it's a little different. No big deal, but it's just interesting that sometimes you get something that looks a little bit different than what you think you're ordering. And sometimes the leads might not be exactly the same. So let me turn it up one more time, a little bit more of a demo. I'll crank it up as loud as I can stand. And I'll let you know to my ear how it sounds like distortion-wise and if it's breaking up or sounding funny. First of all, with the volume down, I hear no hiss whatsoever, so that's good. Actually, let me turn it up. Pause it and let me turn it up. There, it's paused. There, it's halfway. I don't hear anything. Dead quiet. Let me turn it down, press play, crank it up. Alright, now I'm going to do something that I usually like to do, and that's why I like having this box here, because I have left speaker, right speaker, and this pair of connections is for actually a subwoofer, which is, you can't see it, but somewhere is right here on the back, there is a, it's over here. I don't know if you can hear that. There's a 7-inch subwoofer, so I like to put my feet on that thing as I'm sitting at my stool. It makes the height just right, but it's also a subwoofer. And I can test out different amplifiers to see what kind of bass they produce. But more importantly, do they cut off the bass? Some of these little amps tend to roll the bass off pretty strong. So let me rewind this a bit and crank it up a bit. That's pretty loud. So I have no idea. I'm standing a foot away from the camera. I don't know how loud it sounds to the camera. It's hard to tell. But it's pretty loud to my ears. I'm hearing some bass, but it's not really pronounced. It might roll the bass off a bit. I'm not exactly sure how much bass this song really has anyway. Maybe I could try another one. So hold on. Let's try Ubiquitous. See what that sounds like. That sounds like it might have some more bass. Let's see what this does with that. Wow, that really did have some pretty strong bass there. Not bad. So, what are my impressions after listening to this amplifier board for a few hours? I did listen to it with music that I am familiar with, not YouTube music. And I can say that there was actually a little bit of harshness in the mid-range. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't anything that I would consider a deal breaker. But there was a little bit. I thought I'd mention it. A lot of these small Class D amplifier boards do tend to roll the bass off for some reason. Below 60 or 70 hertz, it kind of gets quieter and quieter as you go down in frequency. I'm not exactly sure why that is. I think it has something to do with the filters that they use to filter the signal out, the capacitors and the coils, inductors that they use to filter out the noise from the amplification process because it's Class D. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that because honestly I don't really know. I try not to talk about things that I don't know about, but I'm pretty sure that's part of the problem with a lot of these. I've watched videos that say that a board that would not filter the bass frequencies out for 8 ohm speakers maybe would for 4 ohm speakers, so that needs to be designed maybe specifically for the type of speaker that you're using. I really don't know, but I did notice the bass dropping off a little bit after maybe 60 or 70 hertz, but it wasn't anything horrible. And for the type of projects that you're likely to use this small amplifier board with, a Bluetooth radio, a table radio, maybe a little sound system for a party that you might have outside, it'll probably be perfect for that. The sound quality was totally acceptable. So, the big question, what do I think of this amp board? Thumbs up or thumbs down? No doubt, thumbs up. This is a good amplifier board. The sound is perfectly clean. It's not perfect, but it's very good. It's very efficient. You could probably run this for a couple days on a 18650 battery charger board. The price is right for $3 to $6 a piece. You really kind of can't beat that. And it's all in one, so you're not going to have noise issues. I'm looking forward to using it, and I purchased 4 of these for a specific project for a friend of mine at work for his 3 kids, and I think it's going to work really good for that. It's actually provided a little more volume and output than I was expecting it to at 12 volts, so I'm kind of pleasantly surprised. Well, that's it for today. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.